Metro Theater Company takes a look at the early life of Muhammad Ali. That's next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. We're talking about the latest endeavor by Metro Theater Company in St. Louis. Please welcome Julia Flood, the artistic director. Hi, Julia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is an exciting, big show for Metro Theater Company.
Yes, it is.
Well, I didn't even tell the title of the play. Maybe I should do that. And in this corner, Cassius Clay, who, of course, was the gentleman who the world knows as boxer Muhammad Ali.
Correct. Yes.
So why is this production such a big deal for you?
Well, this play it's a brand new play that was premiered just within this last year in Louisville, Kentucky.
Which was his hometown.
Yes, his hometown. And it was written as a hometown story. Playwright Idris Goodwin, who is getting a lot of attention around the country right now. He's a really wonderful playwright and also a spoken word artist. Some people might remember hearing about his production that he wrote with Kevin Koval which premiered at Steppenwolf, called This Is Modern Art, which raised a national not furor, I would say, a national conversation among theater critics about what kind of theater is appropriate for young people to see, because it was about the graffiti artists who wrote across the new wing of the Art Museum in Chicago, the Art Institute. So that kind of, sprung everybody awake about this. And this is a play he's written since then, Idris, and it's largely based on fact. So it follows the life of Muhammad Ali, who was then Cassius Clay, from the age of 11 through the age of 22. So the last image we see of him, he's about to step into the boxing ring with Sonny Liston, and that's the night that made him internationally famous.
I think it's an interesting angle for a play, because you might think the play might have dealt with his life of celebrity, but that's when the play ends.
Well, and one of the things, when I was reading this play, one of the things I realized is, for people who are, I'd say, maybe over 30, I'm not sure, Muhammad Ali is somebody who's always been in our lives. Muhammad Ali was at one point the most famous person on the planet. There wasn't anybody who didn't know who that was. And
I might just mention, there weren't an abundance of famous black people in the media back then.
Right, exactly. He was an extraordinary person, both as an athlete, as a personality. He was always a strong personality. He's famous for those poems he used to recite.
What was the butterfly? What was that?
Yeah, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Right.
And he then became such a strong activist for social justice and change. His stand against the war.
The Vietnam War.
Yes, and also his conversion to Islam and taking the name of Muhammad Ali rather than keeping a name that he saw as a slave name. That really was, he was way ahead of his time and also very embedded in his time. One of the things that I thought when I read this play, because there's scene after scene from his early life that we don't know about. One of the things that I did not know, I had no idea, was that at the age of 12, when his bicycle was stolen, he went to a police officer, and that police officer, who was a white cop named Joe Martin, became the guy who introduced him to boxing and became his first mentor. So as I was reading this play, I was seeing scene after scene that I thought would really speak to young people in our community today. That's what I started to say. I think Louisville saw this as a hometown story. I see this as a much bigger story in the context of art.
The play is about Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, and this man that influenced him in his life. Are there other characters?
Oh, yes. It's a cast of 11 actors. It has his entire family, his mother, his father, his younger brother, Rudy. And then there is a best friend, Eddie, who is based on 3 real people in Cassius Clay's young life, his best friends. And Eddie becomes a social activist early. And then there's Joe Martin. There is another one of his mentors, Fred Stoner. And there's also, we see his Olympic fight on stage. So we see Ziggy Petrakowski, which took me a long time to learn to say, and part of that fight.
Thanks for practicing before you
Yes.
came on. I appreciate that. Hey, we've got some boxing gloves in front of us. I'm going to ask you about that later. Before we do that, though, we have a video that I guess Metro produced. Set it up for us.
This is about the reasons why we decided to do this play, and also introduces us to the actor who is going to play it, Trigney Morgan.
All right, why don't we take a look at that now?
Metro Theater has some of the most passionate people about the arts. They're extremely committed to making sure that youth have the opportunity to view high-quality plays at minimal cost.
It's my job to find plays for us to produce that speak to our mission.
Our mission really puts youth at the center and is always coming from a place of respect.
A theater company like Metro Theater Company that is so involved with social justice issues and with the development of new plays for young audiences, that finding just the right piece for this season to produce was critically important.
The opportunity of the Cassius Project and in this corner Cassius Clay is to actually take those young people from Ferguson and Normandy and Clayton and Chesterfield and Webster and South City and bring them together under one space.
It's the story of a hero that we all know, Muhammad Ali. It's the part of his story that we don't know.
Hi, I'm Cassius Clay, world champion boxer. This here is my associate, Eddie Green, world champion pain in the rear. We like 2 cheeseburgers and 2 chocolate milkshakes, please.
We don't serve Negroes.
Well, we don't eat Negroes. We want cheeseburgers and milkshakes.
The story of Cassius is someone who had a immense desire to be great and to excel at his craft, but also a very, very strong sense of social responsibility.
I'm excited to have this play parallel to our community here in St. Louis, and hopefully we can draw from it and also have some engaging conversations.
It's a play that is really inspiring, a play that will make people both recognize themselves and want to be more than what they are.
With the Cassius Project, we want to engage as many youth from around the region as we could. What we have is a kind of a unique opportunity, even in the history of Metro Theater Company, to have a potential of over 8,000 young people see this show just in the student matinees, and in total over 11,000 people join this part of the project.
Because it opens a conversation about what's possible, and it has the ability to reignite vision and a purpose in adults, but then also give youth an opportunity to set out and think big and create opportunities as well.
So that's really my hope for the project, is that we have young people ready to take on the world and suddenly finding that they're not alone in doing it.
In this corner, Cassius Clay. It's a new play that Metro Theater Company is putting on in St. Louis, February 12th to the 28th at the Missouri History Museum. Julia Flood is Metro's artistic director and is directing this particular production.
Yes, I am.
Why are you so excited about this? What is the message? What message do you think it gives people?
Well, I think it gives people an opportunity to talk about the potential of every young person in our community. I think we want to have young people see this production and be inspired to be part of this community, to make positive change. And I think what we see here is somebody who became a superhero and somebody who started out as a kid.
And against the odds. I mean, he didn't
Yeah.
exactly have every advantage growing up.
Yeah, it was very much the Jim Crow South, the 50s and 60s in Louisville, Kentucky. So it was very segregated. And he had to confront his own fears and his own, he was always a confident kid. Everybody says that from the time he was a toddler.
You'd think he'd have to be.
But he's still a kid, and he's got to come up and confront the issues that are in front of him and really reach his full potential.
Well, I know Muhammad Ali is not in good physical condition. I think he suffers from Parkinson. I don't know how serious it is for him.
Yeah.
Have you had any contact with him, or have you heard anything about his reaction to the play and that sort of thing?
I know that he had planned to attend the play when it premiered in Louisville last year and wasn't able to. He lives mostly in Arizona now, I believe, and but the Stage One worked closely with the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, and actually we've been in contact with them as well about the play and working on it, and so he knows about the play.
Was it difficult to cast this?
Yes. I started casting this play last May, and I finished casting it basically at the beginning of December.
Wow.
Yeah. And part of that is the size of the cast, and part of it is that we're going to be doing so many student matinees that we're doing, I think, 25 student matinees. We have over 6,000 students.
The student shows start in early February,
Yes,
right?
they do, February 1st. And so finding people who are available for that length of time. And then the role of Cassius is such a particular role that, that it took a long time to find.
We're going to meet two actors in the second segment.
Yeah.
Say something about them and why you cast these two.
Oh, boy. Cassius and Joe Martin are both really particular characters in this play. And the quality I was most looking for, besides the obvious, Trigney is 6'4" plus, so there's that part of it. But also, it's the heart of these characters that I was looking for. The heart of this young man who would take on the whole world, and the heart of this white police officer who trained a lot of young boxers after school and really set them on a path to success. And so that's what I was looking for most.
And the actors that play those roles we're going to meet. Before you go, though, tell me about the gloves you brought. And I understand these were made particularly for this production.
Yes, they were. These are gloves. Lou Bird, who is our costume designer, he's a wonderful designer. He also happens to be a big fan of boxing. And he has all kinds of wonderful contacts in the costume and athletic world. And he happens to know someone whose hobby is making vintage boxing gloves. So these gloves are the kind of gloves that Cassius Clay would have worn at the age of 18 when he fought in the Olympics, and they were made especially for Trigney to wear. So it's really, they're great. They're great fun, and he tells me they're very comfortable.
Well, stick around. Maybe we'll go a few rounds later or something if you'd like.
Yeah.
Julia, Julia Flood, thanks for being here. We look forward to meeting a couple of your cast members coming up next, and have great success with this production.
Thanks, thanks.
And we'll be back with more of Sitting Corner, and we'll meet the actors from the show right after this.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The odds of this daughter of a clergyman spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, And I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. We're talking about Metro Theater Company's production of In This Corner. That's And in This Corner, Cassius Clay. It's a story about Muhammad Ali, the young boy that would grow up to be Muhammad Ali. And now we're going to meet two cast members. Trigney Morgan plays the title role, and also here is David Wasilak, who plays the role of Joe Martin. Welcome to the program, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Trigney, when I was talking to Julia Flood earlier, we talked a little bit about what Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali, sort of how he fit into society and what he meant to our consciousness and so forth. And I know you're a fairly young actor in your mid-20s, so I wonder if you even really knew who Muhammad Ali was or Cassius Clay was growing up. Was he on your radar screen?
No, he was not. I'm not gonna lie. My older brothers were very much into the whole Mike Tyson era. So I knew of Muhammad Ali and I knew what he stood for, but during this show is when I really got deep into his lifestyle and who he was and what he meant for his city and black people in general. So.
And before this experience, how much about boxing did you know?
Not much at all. Not much at all. I did a lot of sports in high school and in college, but boxing was not one of them. So this is the first time that I'm actually like doing actively like doing boxing. So.
And David, did Cassius Clay mean anything to you growing up?
Not as Cassius Clay. I mean, I knew Muhammad Ali as more of a kind of a media personality.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't really into sports much at all. And by the time I guess I was aware of him, he was probably not boxing as much, but I don't know. That may not be true. Maybe he was still.
Well, let me put it this way to both of you then. With all that said, what kind of insight have you gained into the man so far through this project, and what has it meant to you?
Muhammad Ali is an icon. Like, he is a great person. He was a hard worker. He believed in himself. He believed in his people, and he didn't let anything affect him. Like, I just feel like he was a very powerful human being. Well, this is funny. So while I was in college, there was 3 people that I always had on my wall, like as posters. 2 of them were interchangeable. They would always change. But one thing I always carried was a Muhammad Ali poster because I just believed in him. I think he was a strong person, and I just liked what he stood for. So I just liked having his presence in my room, and I just tried to carry that with me myself every time I walked around. So it was just nice to have that. But, yeah.
David?
I guess I learned more about his activism and especially
Against the war and civil rights and that sort of thing.
Right, the Civil War involvement and his resistance to getting drafted. I didn't realize he was involved in that.
It was quite controversial at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So this play, And in This Corner, focuses on the early years. Tell me how the play begins.
It starts off with Cassius Clay and his family, and they're running around, and having a good time, and his mother talks to him.
So this isn't you. The person portraying the character is not you at this point in the play, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Yes, I played 12-year-old Cassius, 14-year-old Cassius.
No kidding.
Yes. Yes, so that's a challenge, but it's different, but it's actually a lot of fun. And I'm learning a lot.
And how tall are you?
I am 6'4".
How do you play a 12-year-old?
Well, it's all about just embodying a 12-year-old. It's not so much as playing it. You just, I mean, so I have nephews and little cousins, so I paid attention to a lot growing up. And I feel like it's not as hard if you just imagine yourself in their shoes and just pay attention to younger people. So.
Well, tell me in your words then, what kind of kid he was, what kind of environment he grew up in, you know, and how his life then influenced who he was to become.
Okay, Cassius Clay was a jokester. He was a big prankster, and he was very family-oriented. He really loved his family, and he paid close attention to them, and he treated them well, and he treated his friends well. He treated his loved ones very well, but he was also a big jokester and a prankster, and that's kind of how he showed his love a lot when he was young. So.
David, tell me who your character is and when he enters the picture here.
I played Joe Martin, who was a police officer in Louisville at the time. And Cassius' bike gets stolen. during an event.
And this is all true, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Very true.
And so he's looking for his bike, and he comes across a police officer, Joe Martin, and he says to the police officer, you know, I'm going to find that guy who took my bike, and I'm going to fight him. And the police officer says, do you know how to fight? And he says, well, and he realizes he doesn't really know how to fight, so he says, come on down to this gym, because Joe ran a gym at that time that the police officers worked out at it and boxed at. But he also invited kids down there to learn how to box. He also produced a local television show that showcased boxers called Tomorrow's Champions in Louisville. And so that's how he met Cassius, trained him. I guess he trained him for about a year before he let him actually fight, in a ring. And then he got onto the television show, and then went from there, and he trained him up through the Olympics.
Isn't that interesting, though? So, like, being a victim of a petty crime really changed his whole trajectory, his whole life.
Yeah, I was thinking about that just the other day. I mean, I don't know, what would he have done if he had not met Joe at that particular time?
Because I don't know much about his family. Did he have a decent family, a mom and a dad? And
He did. He had a very loving mother and a very loving father, and a little brother, Rudy, who looked up to him greatly. So he had the support there. But this bike was extremely important to him. And I think he was just trying to do whatever he could to get it back. And he saw this officer, and he was like, you know what, I'm just going to run to this guy. He didn't care if he was white. He didn't care that he was a police officer and what he may do, what may occur. He was just like, you know what, I'm going to run to this police officer. I got to get my bike. This is my everything, you know? So he did that, and he ended up falling in love with boxing.
Why do you think the officer did that? Was that just what he did to any young kid? Did he see something in this young boy? Do you think you have any insight into that?
Well, from what I've read, he didn't necessarily see a lot of potential in him in the beginning, but I guess except for the fact that he, had this energy, probably. Right. And I think that's what he picked up on, and then he said, and as he trained him, then he realized that, and because Cassius was so determined, and he really trained hard, so he realized that he was serious about it, and I think that's why he pushed him farther into.
So this play traces his life till he's how old?
22.
Right before he begins his professional career?
Yes.
Is that it?
Right before the Sonny Liston fight.
Did you have to do a lot of research about the man yourself?
Yes, I did. I did a lot of research on Muhammad Ali. I looked up a lot of interviews and videos and documentaries and exercises, just a lot of different stuff to get an idea of who he was as a person, and to try my best to imitate his voice and to imitate his body language and the way he would move on the ring.
Yeah, see, that is the thing. For those people that know him, we have video clips, and you do have to portrayed to some accuracy, I mean, his mannerisms, his speech pattern, because people would know if you weren't. Right? People would. What are some of the scenes that you two are in together that you think are interesting, the dynamics, or what can you tell me about that?
So the bike scene that he just described is a very interesting scene.
Right, that's actually portrayed on stage. And then there's training stuff. He's telling him about what boxing is about.
Did he get it right away?
Probably not, no.
Not right away. Right away, Cassius Clay was very timid and didn't know what was going on. He just knew that he just knew that he wanted to.
He was timid?
Yeah. He just knew that he wanted to fight, and he wanted to, ended up beating up this guy who took his bike. So, but Joe Martin, was very patient with him, and he truly believed in him. He knew he was going to be great. So eventually, he knew that Muhammad Ali had something in him and that he could be something awesome.
Well, without giving too much away, I don't know, maybe what's your favorite scene or part of the play? Is there something that just sort of gets to you? David?
Between us two, or just the entire play? Or just
the entire play?
Oh, okay.
What scene? I don't know, you kind of caught me on that.
That's all right. You could just perform it now for us. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was the Ziggy fight, the Olympic fight. It's because that's when Muhammad Ali truly believed that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Because we talked about with Julia the gloves, and I think she said something about there is that fight scene somewhere in there, and you having no boxing background, that must have been real interesting for you. And you had somebody come on to help teach you how to box, so talk about all that.
Yes, Drew was amazing. He's the fight choreographer. His name is Drew. He's the fight choreographer for the show. And we spent pretty much all last week working on that scene and a few other scenes, but that scene particularly was, it's the longest fight scene that we have. And it was grueling. It was grueling, hours and hours working. And we also worked with All City Boxing Arena here in St. Louis, and they helped us as well. Just helped me get my stance together, helped me get my movement together, because they know a lot about Muhammad Ali and how he would move, how he would stand, how he'd bend his knees and things like that. So it was interesting. It's different. It's the first time I've been in a show where physically I was challenged as well as mentally. So it's been fun.
And what about, just briefly, the rest of the cast? Who are the other important people as far as people in his life that are reflected in the play? Are there any characters in particular that really stand out?
Yes. Eddie Green is his best friend. And he was a social activist. He grew to be a social activist and very delved in the civil rights movement. And they clash a lot in the play because Eddie Green sees that Muhammad Ali has this potential and he's getting this fame for his craft. And he's upset that he's not using it for the cause that Eddie feels like he should use it. He feels like he should be using it to put awareness to the injustice of African Americans, and he's not. He's aware of it, but he's more so focused on boxing, and he feels like that's not his calling, and they clash a lot because of that.
Huh.
Yeah.
What do you think the media, let me ask you both this, what do you think the walkaway or what you walk out of the theater thinking when this play is over, David? What does it say to you?
I think it goes to, well, many things, but you know, working, finding your path and working towards that, but also trying to make something of your life, you know, and making it important outside of just yourself.
I feel like people will leave this show with an immense amount of hope, knowing that if you truly work towards something and you believe in something, people will back you up, people will believe in you, and you can make something out of nothing.
I just want to mention too that you are actually from Chicago, live in Chicago, and you came down just for this production.
Yes.
And I don't think you have a lot of experience with St. Louis, do you?
No, this is my first time in St. Louis. This is my first experience ever with the city, and it's been really good so far. I'm actually growing very fond of the city. Anything in your future you want to tell us about? That's coming up. More auditions.
There are always those, right?
Yeah, a lot of auditions, and I'm also a part of a music collective in the city called Kid Made Modern.
And David, just briefly, anything for you?
I'm going to be working with St. Louis Actors Studio in an Anton Chekhov play, Ivanov.
And in this corner, Cassius Clay, Metro Theater Company, February 12th through 28th at the Missouri History Museum. There's the information there. We hope you'll make arrangements to see it. It sounds like a fascinating project. We want to thank both you gentlemen for being here and continued success, and I'll look forward to seeing you on stage.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Dragney, David, thank you. I'm Steve Potter, and thank you at home for watching this edition of City Corner, and I hope you'll join us next time. Bye.